Hello. Welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy today's short story, Gracie, by Olivia Julius. I looked around at the high school gym. It was overly decorated all around me. Streamers of every color hung from the ceiling, twinkling fairy lights illuminating the room like stars. The DJ blasted the music as high as it could, the bass thumping in my chest, drowning out all other sounds. My heart raced with excitement and nerves as I stood near the entrance, taking in the scene before me. I smoothed down the fabric of my purple strapless ball gown, the silky material gliding under my fingertips. The dress hugged my curves just right, the deep shade of purple making me feel like royalty. I had spent weeks searching for the perfect dress, and finally finding it had been a triumph in itself. As I stepped further into the gym, the scent of perfume and cologne mingled in the air, creating a heady aroma that enveloped me. Couples twirled around on the dance floor, lost in each other's eyes, while groups of friends laughed and chatted at tables adorned with glittering centerpieces. Spotting Adam and Brittany on the other side of the room, I made my way over to them, feeling a surge of happiness as they greeted me with wide smiles and compliments on my dress. Brittany of course looked beautiful in her blue sleeveless lace dress, and Adam looked handsome in his tux. There was no surprise that they were dating. I had caught them kissing each other a few years ago while we were visiting Missouri. I felt a little bit envious. After the punishment I had a secret crush on him, but I know that will never go anywhere. I looked at Adam for a moment. I wondered if he was jealous that Brittany and I were wearing dresses. He denied it, but something tells me that Amanda is still locked up somewhere in his head. Brittany and Adam seemed to have a spark between them that seemed magical. They often credit me as the reason they found each other. If it wasn't for me telling his parents that he should be Amanda for a weekend, then they probably would never have met. After all, at that young age, what girl would want to talk to a boy, and what boy would want to talk to a girl? Now Brittany was here for Adam's prom night. She had drove here all the way from Missouri yesterday, and she stayed in their guest room last night and will be staying there again tonight. Next week Adam and I will both be heading to Missouri to be at Brittany's prom. I was going so I could be Emily's date. Both Emily and I admittedly kind of like each other. But I could never fully admit it here in Indianapolis, at least not until after I graduated. I was the head cheerleader of my high school, and I almost bet I would have lost that ranking if I admitted that I like both boys and girls. But as I was thinking about Emily, I couldn't help but steal glances at my boyfriend. Steve was the high school's quarterback. I know it is a cliché, the head cheerleading dating the quarterback and the team captain, but when we first started dating, he was nice and acted like a gentleman. Now he has been ignoring me the whole night. Instead he sat at a table with his friends. Even in the dark gym I could see the half-empty vodka bottle that they were trying to hide from the teachers and chaperones. As the night continued, my heart grew heavier with each passing moment as I watched Steve from across the room. His distant demeanor and the sight of him with his friends, engrossed in their own world, left me feeling isolated and alone amidst the lively atmosphere of the dance. Trying to push aside the growing unease gnawing at me, I made my way through the crowd, determined to confront Steve and find out what was going on. As I approached his table, the smell of alcohol wafted towards me, confirming my suspicions about their activities. "Steve," I said, my voice tinged with concern as I placed a hand on his shoulder. "What's going on? You've been avoiding me all night." Steve looked up, his eyes slightly unfocused as he tried to focus on me. "Hey, babe," he slurred, a lazy smile playing on his lips. "Just hanging out with the guys, you know how it is." His dismissive response only fueled my frustration, and I felt a surge of anger rising within me. "Steve, this isn't like you," I said firmly, trying to ignore the pang of hurt in my chest. "You promised we would have a great time tonight, but you've barely acknowledged my existence." His friends exchanged knowing glances, clearly uncomfortable with the situation unfolding before them. But Steve just shrugged, his attention already drifting away from me. Relax, babe. We're just having some fun. Why don't you join us? The invitation felt like a slap in the face, a stark reminder of the growing distance between us. With a heavy heart, I shook my head, the weight of disappointment settling over me like a dark cloud. No, Steve. I think I'll pass. Turning away from him and his friends, I made my way towards the exit, the sounds of the party fading into the background as tears stung my eyes. Tonight was supposed to be magical, but instead, it had become a painful reminder of the cracks in our already fragile relationship. I heard Steve get up from the table and walk to me. He grabbed me by my elbow and turned me around to face him. Fine, if you want to go, then we will go, he said, pulling me to his old Mustang. As Steve guided me towards his old Mustang, a mix of emotions churned inside me. Part of me wanted to push him away and demand answers, to confront him about his behavior and the distance that had grown between us. But another part longed for the comfort of his presence, the familiarity of his touch, even in the midst of our strained relationship. Silently, I allowed him to lead me to the car, the cool night air washing over us as we stepped outside of the bustling gym. The distant sounds of laughter and music faded into the background, replaced by the quiet tension that hung between us like a heavy fog. As Steve opened the door for me, I hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at my insides. Was I making the right choice by leaving the prom with him? Should I confront him about his actions, or try to salvage what was left of our evening? But before I could voice my doubts, Steve's hand found mine, his touch gentle yet firm as he looked into my eyes with a mixture of remorse and longing. I'm sorry, babe, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I messed up tonight, and I know I've been distant lately. But I promise, I'll make it up to you. Let's just get out of here and talk, okay? His words pierced through the haze of uncertainty clouding my mind, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness of our strained relationship. With a heavy sigh, I nodded, silently acknowledging his apology and the fragile bond that still held us together. As Steve started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, the rhythmic hum of the car's engine filled the silence between us. Panic surged through me as Steve's reckless driving became increasingly apparent. The realization that he was not just a little tipsy, but dangerously intoxicated, sent a wave of fear coursing through my veins. With each passing moment, the situation grew more dire, and I knew that I had to act fast to prevent a potential disaster. Steve, stop the car. I screamed, my voice trembling with urgency. But he seemed oblivious to my pleas, his focus consumed by the haze of alcohol that clouded his judgment. Frantically, I reached for my purse, my fingers shaking as I fumbled with the zipper. As I pulled out my phone, I struggled to steady my trembling hands long enough to dial 911, but the numbers blurred before my eyes, taunting me with their elusiveness. With a surge of determination, I forced myself to focus, my heart pounding in my chest as I punched in the digits, praying for a response. But as the line rang and rang, with no answer on the other end, a sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. Desperation clawed at me as I realized that I was running out of options. With each passing moment, the risk of a tragic accident loomed larger, threatening to shatter the fragile semblance of normalcy that had already been fractured by Steve's reckless behavior. Steve, please, I pleaded, my voice barely above a whisper as I reached out to touch his shoulder. But he remained unresponsive, lost in a world of his own making, oblivious to the danger that lurked just beyond the windshield. As the headlights of oncoming traffic bore down on us, I closed my eyes, silently praying for a miracle, for a chance to make it out of this nightmare alive. And in that moment of uncertainty, with the sound of screeching tires and blaring horns filling the air, I clung to the hope that somehow, someway, we would find a way to survive the chaos. I should have dumped Steve a long time ago, I should have stayed with Adam and Brittany at the prom, I should have invited Emily to my prom and not cared about what other people had to say about it. But it was too late. We got off the road and onto a sidewalk, Steve pushed down on the accelerator and the last thing I saw was the post office getting closer and closer and then everything went black. The pathway stretched out before me, winding its way through a landscape that seemed to shimmer with an ethereal glow. The grass beneath my feet felt soft and springy, like walking on clouds. Flowers of every color imaginable dotted the scenery, their petals swaying gently in a breeze that carried with it the sweet scent of blooming blossoms. As I looked around, I realized that the trees lining the pathway were unlike any I had ever seen. Their branches reached up towards the sky, adorned with leaves that seemed to dance in the sunlight. The air was filled with the sound of birdsong, as though a symphony of feathered creatures had gathered to serenade me on my journey. Despite the beauty surrounding me, a sense of wonder and curiosity tugged at my heart. How had I come to be in this place? Where was I going? Questions swirled in my mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind, but before I could dwell on them for too long, I heard a familiar voice calling out to me. Gracie. The voice echoed through the air, filling me with a warmth that I hadn't felt in a long time. Turning towards the sound, I saw her. Jessica was standing at the end of the pathway with a smile that lit up her face like the sun. Tears filled my eyes as I ran towards her, my feet barely touching the ground as I raced towards the one person I have missed more than anything. With each step, the world around me seemed to blur and fade away until all that remained was her, standing there with open arms, ready to embrace me. She looked just like she did before she got sick. Physically she was about the same age as I am now. I am just a year older than she was when she died. As I approached her, I noticed the way her brunette hair caught the light, framing her face in a halo of shimmering strands. Her eyes, a mirror of my own, sparkled with a joy that seemed to radiate from within. She wore a dress made of the same radiant fabric as the landscape around us, flowing and billowing with every movement as if woven from the very essence of happiness itself. With each step, my heart swelled with a mixture of longing and elation. It felt like an eternity since I had last seen her, since the illness had stolen her away from me. But here she was now, before me, vibrant and full of life as though she had never left. As I finally reached her, she enveloped me in a warm embrace, her arms wrapping around me with a tenderness that I had craved for so long. In that moment, all the pain and sorrow melted away, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment that I had never known before. Gracie, she whispered, her voice like a gentle melody, I've missed you so much. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I held onto her, never wanting to let go. I've missed you too, I choked out between sobs, the weight of years of longing and grief lifting from my shoulders with each passing moment. Together, we stood there in the embrace of our reunion, surrounded by the beauty of this otherworldly paradise. And in that moment, I knew that no matter where life may take me, my sister would always be by my side, guiding me with her love and light. But then reality came tumbling down. Jessica was dead. Was I dreaming? This felt more than a dream. This is more realistic than any dream I have ever had. This is not real, is it? I asked, looking up at Jessica's face. I mean, you died several years ago. Around me the landscape changed, and I found myself sitting in a hospital room. It was Jessica's room before she had gotten moved to the hospice wing of the hospital. Jessica sat on her hospital bed and looked down at me. This is what you perceive it to be, Jessica said. Jessica's words hung in the air, echoing in my mind as I tried to make sense of what was happening. Everything around me felt so real, so vivid, yet the knowledge of Jessica's passing lingered like a shadow in the back of my consciousness. But how? How can this be real? I stammered, my voice trembling with uncertainty. You're gone. She smiled gently, her eyes filled with understanding. Sometimes, Gracie, death is not the end, it is for your time on earth, but it isn't the end for your soul. I felt a rush of conflicting emotions washing over me, disbelief, longing, and a glimmer of hope all intertwined within my heart. Could it be possible that this was more than just a dream? That somehow, someway, I had been granted the chance to reunite with my sister, even if only for a fleeting moment. As I looked around at my surroundings, the doubts began to fade away, replaced by a newfound sense of acceptance. Whether this place was a figment of my imagination or something more, one thing remained certain: the love I felt in Jessica's embrace was undeniably real. What you are seeing is just a glimpse. An echo. You will see it in full when you pass on from your life. But now you must prepare to go back. I don't want to leave, I whispered, clinging to her as if afraid that she might vanish into thin air at any moment. This is not your time, Jessica said. You will return to your life soon enough. What do you mean? I asked. Jessica's smile softened as she looked at me with a mixture of love and understanding. You have much left to do in the world, Gracie, she explained gently. There are still people who need you, who rely on you for strength and support. Your journey is far from over. Her words resonated deep within me, stirring a sense of purpose and determination that I had long since forgotten. Despite the pain and hardships that I had faced, there was still so much left for me to accomplish, so many lives left to touch with love and kindness. But what about you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as I gazed up at her. Are you okay? Jessica's expression grew solemn, her eyes reflecting a depth of sadness that tugged at my heartstrings. The world flashed and I found myself in the hospice room that Jessica died in. My mom and my dad stood there behind me as we watched Jessica take her last breath, but she wasn't me. It was weird seeing myself outside of my body. Jessica, the Jessica that met me in this unworldly place. Looked down at her own frail body. I could see the sadness within her. I am at peace, Gracie, she assured me, her voice filled with a quiet strength. My time in the world may have come to an end, but my love for you will endure forever. You carry a piece of me within you, always. Why did you have to go? I asked, accidentally yelling my response. I needed you, I needed my big sister, why did you have to leave me? I found myself going down to my knees crying. Jessica got on her knees too and held me closely. I have never and will never leave you. Jessica said, holding my hand gently. I'm sorry I passed away when you were so young, the cancer was just too strong, it was winning and there was no way I could beat it. But your body is still good, go back to it, and live your life. The world around me started to change and I found myself in the trailer park where we moved to after Jessica died. I was with you when you moved to Indianapolis. Flash, I was in my first day of school feeling unsure about myself. I didn't know anyone there. I just sat there at my desk watching as Mrs. Yokeman did attendance. All the faces around me were so new. And I didn't know what to do or who to talk to. Your first day of school I was as nervous as you were, I was hoping that you would find some great friends to be with you. Flash, my hair had gotten cut by Adam. I watched as I turned around in my seat. I was here comforting you. Mad at what Adam did but also trying to make it known that I wasn't mad at you. Flash, I was now in the elementary school cafeteria, Adam and I were both wearing the girls' school uniform and I had just released him from his punishment. Here, I was proud of you defending yourself and teaching a lesson rather than trying to get even. Flash, I was in middle school walking in snow, Adam was next to me talking but I was walking on autopilot, I was nervous about donating my hair. What if my hair wasn't good enough, what if there was a mistake? This was going to be my first time donating my hair to charity. I was proud of you, when you fulfilled your promise to me and donated your hair to charity. Flash, I was now in Little Ridge High School preparatory school, I was in the line with 10 other freshmen, the same age as me. We stood in front of the cheer squad, only 3 of us were going to be picked to be on the team. 7 of us would be going home. 2 girls were already called. This was it, either become a cheerleader for the Tigers or I won't be. Gracie, a teenage girl, said, reading my name. I ran up to the front to grab my new black and red Tigers cheerleading uniform. I was cheering for you. Jessica said, I was proud that you made the squad. Flash, I was back in Missouri, I made it my new tradition to go with Adam and his family to Missouri during every Easter break. I was here. Jessica said, when you wanted to tell Emily that you liked her but chickened out. You didn't know how she would react, and you weren't sure how Mom and Dad would take the news. Not only does this mean you will be dating a girl, but also a trans girl. Gracie, a Mom and Dad will support you no matter who you love. You should talk to Emily, she is a great girl to be around. Flash, I was at the gym again, but this was the start of my senior year. I was now one of the 3 senior girls, and the rest of the squad was voting on who should be the head cheerleader. I stood with the other seniors and prayed it would be me. You became head cheerleader even though you were nervous that I was going to be mad for taking a role that I had wanted back when I was alive. Jessica said. You wanted to withdraw your nomination, but your fellow cheerleaders talked you out of it. I was so happy when you decided to go ahead with the nomination in my name, and you won. Flash, I was wearing my cheerleading uniform, my arms were hooked with mom and dad's as I walked down basketball court smiling at the crowd. This game was going to be my last game I cheered for. It was senior night and no matter what the Tigers were going to do in this game our season was over tonight. I was here. Jessica said. I was cheering you on, wishing I could tell you how proud I was that you were here on your last day of being a cheerleader. Flash, it was night, and I was walking with Steve. I realized that this was earlier this evening. Steve and I got into the car, and he started driving wildly out of control. And I was here, wishing you hadn't got into his car, wishing I could protect you further. The car skidded into the post office and wrecked. Steve instantly got out of the car, but I just lay there in the passenger seat, I was unmoving. And I am with you in this moment. Flash. I was laying on a gurney, the medics were wheeling my lifeless body into the emergency room. It was weird seeing my own body, bloody and bruised from the accident being raced into the hospital. My dress was off me, and a sheet covered my body. Nurses and doctors rushed round the bed as they rolled me down the hall. As they did, an EMT was running behind them. I checked her purse and there was an ID in it. Her name is Gracie Thompson, she is 17 years old and by the looks of what she was wearing, she had just come from the prom, her date was drunk when we found him. The car she was in was wrapped around her. It took 15 minutes to get her out, she's lost a lot of blood. The paramedic said amazingly in one breath. She's crashing. One of the nurses yelled out. I need a crash cart out here. The doctor yelled out. A man came over with a defibrillator and charged it up. Clear. He yelled and everyone took their hands off me. I felt a sudden jolt in my chest. The world around me flicked in and out. What's going on? I asked. They're trying to restart your heart. Jessica said you need to go back. You need to let them revive you. No. I said, but then another stronger shock hit me. Gracie, listen to me, this is not your time. Go out, live your life, tell me all about it when you get back. I don't want to leave you. I begged. As Jessica's words washed over me, a sense of clarity began to emerge from the haze of confusion and fear. She was right. This wasn't the end for me. I still had a life to live, people to love, and dreams to pursue. With a deep breath, I nodded, the weight of her words settling over me like a comforting blanket. I'll go back, I whispered. As I spoke, the world around us began to shift and fade, melting away like paint on a canvas. Jessica's hand slipped from mine, her presence fading into the ether as I felt myself being pulled back into consciousness. I will be with you. I heard her say softly. The darkness enveloped me once more, wrapping around me like a cocoon as the sound of beeping machines and distant voices filled the air. I could feel the warmth of life returning to my body, the steady rhythm of my heartbeat echoing in my ears like a beacon in the night. And then, with a sudden gasp, I jolted back to life, my chest heaving as I struggled to draw breath into my lungs. The world came rushing back in a whirlwind of sensation, the harsh light of the hospital room blinding me as I blinked away at the haze of unconsciousness. She's back. I heard the doctor say. I stayed there motionless, my eyes were closed, and I could feel nothing but the desire to sleep. Thank you. I said silently, thank you Jessica for being with me.